what would you say is the sweet spot currently for having a successful brewery these days? What sort of model would you sort of recommend?
There's two models that you could do. It depends how much money you got. Be a brew pub.
Yep.
And sell takeaway cans or whatever, right? Or get big and be a big production brewery. There's no in between.
Yep. But you looked at the Gypsy model as a potential springboard into.
I would not recommend that. No? I would not recommend that to anyone. It used to be viable. It just very quickly became unviable. Because the thing is, right, because even though I didn't have to put my hand in my pocket to build a brewery, I'm paying for somebody else's, right? And so your unit costs, you get no economies of scale, right? Yep. So if I was a Gypsy brewer making 1 million litres a year, you pay what's called a co-pack fee when you Gypsy brew or contract brew, right? It's the fee that you pay to the brewery for the electricity and the labour and all that sort of stuff, right? And it's not your raw materials and it's not your packaging, right? It's a fee that it's like rent, okay? Now that's a unit cost. So if I make a case of beer and the co-pack fee is say, $20 just to pull a random number out. If you make 10,000 litres of beer a year or 1 million litres of beer, it's still $20. Whereas if I own my own brewery, right, I've got my space and a lot of the costs become fixed costs. Rent becomes fixed cost. Things like rates and all that sort of stuff. Wages become fixed costs, right? And so then it becomes easy for you to become profitable because if you can squeeze more beer faster through the same amount of rent, you're making money. You make more money.
Yep. Right. So I understand that Gypsy Brewing isn't a sustainable model. And I know that, if you want to do it long term, it's a tough slog with little margins, or if anything, if you break even, you're doing well. But I'm thinking of it as an opportunity to dip my toes in, build a brand,
yes,
get a trading history, build a following, and then maybe go and talk to an investor who's interested in, in our brand, or going to talk to an angel investor that wants to just help us out with investing in our equipment or whatever. So that's sort of where I'm looking at in that perspective.
I speak to lots of people. Is that something you're considering yourself, Chris?
It is an option, but it is something that I'm learning throughout this. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is just talking to people and getting their opinions on what they recommend. Yes. A lot of people are saying brew pub is a great model. It's where you're going to get greater margins. And then if you want to become a production, you've got, maybe pick a location where you can expand to become a production. Yes. Or look at I guess I don't. I want to make sure people like my beers, and I don't know if I want to invest $500,000 in a brewery, then dial in my recipes, build the brand from there. I just feel it would be, if I can break even doing the Gypsy model route, then I can, go into my premises with already a brand, a following, and some recipes dialed in. I can, have a little bit of a head start, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that, right?
Yep.
So let's say you want to be a Gypsy brewer to get the brand out there until you go and build your own brewery to test the market, right? Mm-hmm. I talk to lots of people like you who consider that, right? Mm-hmm. And so what sort of beers are you thinking of making?
Well, your typical pale ale, like to have a Pilsner, an IPA, and obviously having probably around 3 core beers and then having a seasonal, here and there.
Okay. So what do you plan to sell? What would you like the retail price of a 6-pack of your pale ale to be?
I don't know, probably around that, probably around that 25 to 30 mark, I guess.
Yep, $25, right?
Yep.
So $25 it means that you're going to be, so you can reverse engineer a bottle shop price to the wholesale price. They've got pretty fixed margins. I won't go into too much detail around it, but it's very,
you're right.
Very easy to reverse engineer. So basically, you're talking around your sell price being about $2.30 to $2.60 per stubby or can, right? That's your wholesale price for a $25 six pack. Okay, so times 24, $2. Let's call it $2.50 times 24. How much is that? I haven't got my calculator.
$2 times 24.
$2.50.
Yeah.
$2.50 times 24. Let's call it. It's all even $3, right?
Yep.
Let me get my calculator out here. So 3 times 24. Let's call it $3, right?
Yep.
Is 70. Actually, that's pretty excessive. That's not a wholesale price at all. It's going to be about $2.50, right? Means you're going to be selling your beer for $60, right? Your raw materials are going to be at least $1.50, maybe even $2 a litre. There's 9 litres in a case of 375 ml cans, right? So that's $9. Cans are about 20 cents plus 5 cents, right? So if I've got $9 for my raw materials, for the liquid, and I've got so 0.25 times 24, so that's $6. So that's $15. I've got labels, which are going to be about 20 cents each. So plus 24 times 20 cents. That's $4.80. Let's add on the container deposit scheme. So that's $3.60. Right, it's $23. You're going to need a case. That's going to be about 80 cents. We're going to need to add excise. It's going to be about $14. Right, it's 30. We're at $38 now. Okay. So what do we got? We've got liquid. We've got a can. Oh, we need a pack. We need some pack techs, right? So they're about 40 cents each. You need 4 of those. So that's about, let's call it $2. Right, so we're at $40 now. It's a box of beer, pack tech on a pallet. That's so basically that $40. That's your ex works price, right? That's at the brewery. Now you got to get it to the bottle shop that you sell it, right? And so it's going to cost you about $8 to get it to just Metro through a 3PL, right? So it's going to cost you some money to get it to the central warehouse to store it, and then to get put on a truck to get delivered, right? So let's call that $8, right? So it's $48, and then you got to pay someone to make the beer and sell the beer, and that hasn't been factored in yet because all we've got is unit costs.
So you're only at $48 at the point where you haven't even brewed your beer yet.
No, for $48 you've brewed the beer and you've shipped it to a warehouse to be stored, and then you've got it to the consumer. To a bottle shop.
Yep.
You haven't paid yourself, right? You haven't paid the sales rep who sold it. Sales rep's going to take 15%. So after $48, that's going to be about another $6. Right, that's $54. You still haven't been paid, right? We still have to get this beer into the bottle shop for $60, right? Otherwise, it's not going to be a $25 six pack. It's going to be a $35 six pack. No one's going to buy a six pack for $35. So you've basically got $5 there. That's your gross profit, right? You still haven't paid yourself. Still haven't paid your accountant. Still haven't done your marketing, your branding, your social media, all those other things that you need to do, your petrol for your car, all that sort of stuff. That's not fitting into $6.
So yeah,
so the answer to answer your question, Chris, it is impossible in Australia to be a gypsy brewer and be competitive and make core range products like pale ales and lagers and IPAs and stouts and shit like that, right?
Right.
Impossible. You cannot be competitive. I didn't even add on the co-pack fee into that 48. That we're at $48. You're going to need to add. It's about $2.50 a liter. So 2.5 times 9, so that's another $18. Your carton of beer is already $70 at a bottle shop.
So what has sort of changed since the days when you were doing it, and many other breweries who started out that way? What has changed to make it not that favorable anymore?
Well, it's not. To be fair, it was the core range product that was part of the problem with Brew Cult, right? Because when I started, I was doing a lot of specialty beers, and I was doing beers in 500ml bottles, and so the packaging costs were much cheaper. And because it was specialty beers aimed at beer geeks, I could charge a higher price. The beers used to sell for about $10 or $12 retail for one 500ml bottle, right? And so I could make a decent margin on that, but not core range beer. It's too competitive. As soon as you start going into making pale ales and stuff like that, you're competing with big breweries like Hawkers and Brick Lane and Young Henry's and all that sort of stuff that are making cracking beers. They're doing it much more competitively than any gypsy brewer possibly can. You just can't compete on price. You will lose money. There is no point. There is no point investing 1 cent whatsoever in, quote, getting the brand out. You are better off keeping that money in your pocket and building your own brewery.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And listen, that's the whole reason I have people on like you to sort of give us these realities that whack us in the face. And like I said, has been something that I've been sort of formulating in my mind during this podcast, but I don't think anyone's sort of been as brutally honest as you have been just now.
Yeah, of course. It's better to know these things now, Chris, and not make that same mistake that I did in going down that path of being a gypsy brewer. Name one gypsy brewing company or who from 2 years ago that still exists or is still operating as a gypsy brewer. Name one.
Can't
Australian one.
No,
can't think of one. All of them are either become breweries in their own right, have built their own brewery, right? Or they don't exist anymore. That's where you go if you go down the path of being a gypsy brewer.
Well, that is the angle that I'm looking at. Like I said, I'm not looking at it as a sustainable model. But what you're saying is don't save your money and just go the brew pub route.
Save your money. Yeah, man. Back yourself. Sure, your beers are great. I believe that your beers are awesome, right? But there's absolutely no point in sending good money after bad in trying to, quote, get the brand out, right? Your brand will get out when you build your fucking brewery, Just back yourself, right? So if you don't feel confident in your product and your passion and your vision for the beers that you want to create, to not build a brewery, don't build a brewery. Stay home brewing.
Yep. Yeah, and I completely hear what you're saying there and where you're going with it. But I guess I look at it in a different aspects. Is yes, the brand, dip your toes in the market before investing in stainless. But the other thing is, I look at it as a proven concept. It's a business. It has some trading history, and then because my biggest concern is trying to see where I'm going to get the capital to have a real good go from the very beginning. Because a lot of these breweries who I'm talking to are saying that the common theme is they're starting out too small, or they started out too small. What they would have done differently starting out would have been having more capital behind them and starting bigger. Because, you've had people like Pat from Willie who have expanded a number of times and they wish they went bigger from the beginning. So I guess any comments regarding that?
Absolutely. But if you're going to be big, you've got to have the working capital behind you to support it.
Yep.
There's no problem with you whatsoever in going and getting your pale ale and your lager and that sort of thing brewed. But man, that's a lot of money. A lot of money to tie up in beer with a really, really small margin. You're better off, even with interest rates at 0.1% as they are now, stick your money in the bank. It makes more. You're going to do better, all right? You will not be cash flow positive selling core range beers as a gypsy brewer. It just is impossible. And I would not recommend that anybody do it whatsoever. And I've done it. I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what is it. You've
The
whacked
other
me in the
thing-
face here,
here's
Steve.
the other thing as well, right? If you're a Gypsy brewer, you don't have an excise manufacturer license, so you do not get the $100,000 a year cash back from the ATO.
Mm.
Now that's $100,000 to be on your bottom line. Build a fucking brewery, you get one.